As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
Hello and welcome to another episode of The Room Went Dark, the true crime in film, where we discuss film, TV, and documentaries, all based on real events. I'm your host, Amalie, and I'm also joined by Lorraine.
Yeah, forget about it.
Yeah, forget about it. And today, if you haven't guessed already, we're going to be discussing Goodfellas, which is an interesting one for true crime again. I mean, it's
There's
very
some
much
crime in it, to be
crime.
fair.
It's actually quite a lot of crime, isn't it? But I guess maybe not your kind of
Yeah,
usual, you know, you know, serial killer horror movie kind of style that
yeah.
we've done a few of. But yeah, I mean, I'll do a bit of an intro to it. Obviously, like Goodfellas was a 1990 American biographical gangster film that was an adaptation of, I think it's Pileggi,
Okay.
who was the guy that wrote the book Wise Guy. Um, it has a more of a full title than that, but it's fine. People can look it up if they want to, because we're here to talk about the film. But the film was co-written by Pileggi and obviously Scorsese. It was directed by Scorsese and produced by Irvin Winkler, and there is like a full host of like actors in this, like there's
Mm.
many of them, like including Samuel L. Jackson, like
I forgot he was
for
in
like
it. When I
five
saw it, I was like,
minutes.
is that Samuel L. Jackson? Yeah.
Who I think is like like a gay drug dealer. Like,
He doesn't last very long in it, though, does he? Bless him.
no, he gets shot really quickly, doesn't he?
Yeah.
But, I mean, you've got Scorsese's parents in this as well.
Yeah.
So like both like Charles and Catherine. So Catherine plays Tommy's mother, who
Mm.
we'll talk about in a bit, and Charles is in it as well. I think is like Vinny, like one of the Vinnies, one of the Vinnies.
Really?
Vinny's in it, and but yeah, you've got Samuel L. Jackson, Debbie Mazar, Ileana Douglas, Frank Severo, Kevin Corrigan. Like, there's loads of people in this. It's amazing. But as it goes, we'll just start with like the beginning of the film because it's such a good intro, and the score is great for this film as well, I
Mm.
must say. And you've got Robert De Niro, who Ray, I can't remember. It's Liotta, isn't
Leota.
it?
Yeah.
Ray Liotta and Joe Pesci, and then James Conway or Jimmy Conway, is played by Robert De Niro. Henry Hill, who is the kind of main protagonist, I guess,
Mm.
across the film. I'm talking about like people who haven't watched this, but obviously that most people listening to this will have. So I'm sorry if I'm like, I'm very excited about this film, right? And then Joe Pesci, who plays Tommy DeVito. Um, and they're just driving in the car, aren't they? I think it starts with Henry's sort of upbringing from like
Yeah.
young, and sort of he starts getting in mixed in with like the cab drivers who obviously end up becoming the mafia mob. But there's a particular scene near the beginning where those three in particular are in the car. And they pull over at the roadside, open the boot or the trunk if you're in America, and there's a guy tied up in the back, and they basically like stab him, and then shoot him
Because they think he's
because
should
they thought he was
already be dead.
already, yeah, he's
Yeah.
supposed to already be dead, and that's just like the start of of the film.
And they kind of start how they mean to go on.
Yeah,
Like that's, you look at something like that, and obviously how that guy ended up in there happens later. But you can't, it's not like they've shown you it all now, like the beginning. It's like
it gets pretty bad, doesn't
it's
it?
so this film and mafia films, I struggle with mafia films, which I get
Yeah.
the irony behind that with me watching horror and doing all the true crime stuff. But it's just so violent and
It's really violent.
relentless. And they, I think I text you, didn't I? And I said they just all need to calm down a bit because they overreact so much. Like the
Mhm.
slightest bit of disrespect, and it's like they fuck you up in a way
Yeah.
like what would they do if you killed their mother? Like they'd probably peel your skin off over a
Yeah,
few
yeah. If
days
you
or
get,
something. Like they really make you suffer. But like
yeah.
it's literally like you can't say anything to them, especially Tommy, like Joe Pesci's character.
Hmm.
Like it just yeah. But like you said at the beginning with Henry, I do like the whole us getting to know Henry and Henry's journey to kind of becoming an adult and
Yeah,
how unbelievably wrong it is that this is his life in childhood. And you know no, when the letters get sent home and the poor postman gets basically beaten up and told don't deliver any post because the school's like
yeah.
your son's like just like they're just a law unto themselves, really, aren't they? You can't. The mafia law and the law are two very different things.
Two very different things. And I think like that beginning of it as well, as you watch Henry sort of essentially being kind of like it's child exploitation and grooming.
Oh,
He's very
100%.
much like groomed and with, into and it starts, starts off with like basic simple stuff and then it starts to lean towards like, committing arson and like
Oh yeah.
setting fire to cars and stuff. And then before you know it, he's, but I think Scorsese does a really good job of showing kind of like that initial shock on his face when like as the violence sort of escalates and escalates. Each there's it's almost like there's a stage, isn't there,
Yeah.
throughout the film where there is a sort of a cut to his face and you can see he does the initial like oh God, like this is full on, and then manages to sort of poker face it, like that kind of internalization of like violence and it becoming sort of just this is what happens like
Well,
for the status and the money like you just turn you just deal with it.
I think that's the thing though with this kind of life, like from the beginning. It's one of
Mm.
those things where you think, we all like to think that we know things that we haven't experienced. We all do it, we've all got our opinions and stuff like that. And then it actually happens, and you're like, this is nothing like what I thought it would be. And, he's young, he's getting all this attention, he's got all these male, for use of a better term, role models, that probably aren't the best role models. And they all think he's great and they're giving him money. And like in one bit, he turns around and said how his friends helped his mom carry her groceries home
Hmm.
because he
There
was
was
getting known, So like look at the status he has and he's only a kid. Because at
yeah,
the
yeah,
end of the day, he is a kid. Like I know he's like 14, 15, 16, whatever, but he's still a child,
yep,
you know? Um,
very much
so
so.
yeah, but you can see because it's like you said, like grooming. It's a gradual process, isn't it? It's getting to know you, the compliment, the gifts, you
Yeah,
know, the
so,
independence and all this kind of stuff. So you get suckered into it and your brain isn't developed. And by the time, you've reached adulthood, you're fully invested. Because like he was 21 and like because obviously he didn't look 21 when he got married and all that kind of stuff. I didn't realize he was that young.
yeah,
Um, like he's only 21 and look at all the stuff he's done, then getting married in the house and kids and all that kind of stuff coming along.
yeah,
Like it's just such a lot in such a short space of time for such a young person, and they're all a lot more older than him. Because like look at Paulie, like Paul Savino's
yeah,
character.
yeah,
He's like in his 50s or 60s or something, but all the other boys, they're probably in their 30s, 40s, so they're
yeah.
grown
Yes.
ass men, and they don't care. They like to think they care about each other, but they don't. They just want what they want,
No,
you know.
yeah, they're just. I mean, they're just. I mean, it's an entire culture, though, isn't it? It's
Oh,
very much
100%.
about like what can we get? What's
Yeah.
the how much money can we make? Like, there's something about the like for me from like an ADHD perspective, like I can see like that dopamine hit that you would get from constantly getting away with like the things that they're doing and like it's just mad and they end up with all this cash and it's very sort of I don't know, just a way of life but in like this really quite unsafe, and the thing is like Henry, he goes from being in a family where his dad's critical, he's quite controlling, he's not very nice to Henry.
No.
And like you said, all of the things that actually, you know, he gets provided by the mafia in the opposite way, and he gets his independence. He gets to feel like he's an adult. He gets gifts and told that he's a great kid and a little slap on the face, a kiss on the
Yeah,
cheek,
but you just realize it's a huge manipulation for them
Yeah,
just to get
yeah,
him to, you know,
yeah,
to get
yeah.
to get what they want, you
And
know.
it's crazy stuff. But so yeah, you've got Paul Sorvino as
Barley.
Paulie Cicero, and then Lorraine, I want to say
Draco.
Bracco, yeah, who plays Henry's wife Karen. But yeah, it's just insane. There's just so much violence in it as well, and um, just watching the sort of from childhood through until I don't know, I think what was it, 1955 to 1980, wasn't it, was kind of like the time that he was most prevalent. So we're talking about like 25 to 30 years maybe max, which I think is what the space is between this film, where he sort of
Yeah,
gets married at
55 to
21.
80. They were part of the
Well, this is it,
Lucchese
yeah.
crime family. Um,
Lucchese.
Lucchese.
Yeah.
Lucchese. See?
Lucchese. Uh,
Um,
yeah. But yeah, yeah, it's just, and there's so many, like their wedding is insane, like the amount of people, and they're coming
oh.
out giving them envelopes and like handing them money.
And she's worried that someone's going to steal the money, and he's like,
Yeah.
that just would, and it wouldn't
Like,
happen there.
no, no, because you'd get flipping, you know,
But they've
taken
got
out.
these weird kind of rules as well about who can be touched and who can't be touched. So obviously you've got De Niro and Liotta who can't be made because they're not full Italian. I think you've got to be like full Sicilian or almost, isn't it? It's like you've got to be
Yeah,
proper Italian. And Liotta, I think he's got Irish, and I think this is the same with James, but I can't remember. But
yeah,
but then you've got Joe Pesci's character Tommy, who is full and can be made. But then they've got this rule. So when the the bit where the beginning where the guy's in the car and you're kind of like, who's this fella? Why are they mad at him? Why are they stabbing him? But it
yeah,
turns out he's a made guy, isn't he? He's a top guy as well.
yeah,
And there's that whole scene in the bar that he can basically treat and say and do what he wants, knowing full well that there's going to be a reaction and stuff.
yeah,
But not that he doesn't deserve to die for being an asshole. He was a prick, like, do you know what I mean? Let's face it. But I think the reaction of them all was a bit over the top. And
mm,
but I think it's like this really weird thing where like you can shoot Joe Pesci, you can shoot Tommy, you can shoot James, you can shoot Henry if you want, because they're not made. But
yeah,
this guy can do what he wants. And the way he wound up, especially Tommy, that doesn't take a lot, let's be fair. And you get that moment, don't you, where you think it's kind of done,
yeah.
and then he just turns around and he has to say one more freaking thing. He has to get that last word in, and the way
Don't do
they
it.
jump on him like a pack of wolves, it's. I'll be honest with you, I jumped forward on
Really?
the
Were you
beating.
watching?
It was too much for me. I can't watch that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it was
It was so
pretty
vicious. There were
heavy.
so many of them. And the thing is, you have like James, Jimmy, and Henry are like basically don't do that. They don't want to do that to this guy, but
Mm,
then they help obviously to get rid
yeah.
by killing him and burying
This
all that kind of stuff.
this is Billy Batts, isn't it? Who
Yeah,
I think in real life is meant to be Frank Vincent. So
yeah,
there's real life versions, well, because
yeah,
everyone's kind of
yeah.
been renamed.
Changed
A lot of them
slightly.
got the
Yeah.
same first names, but
Mm.
Billy Batts is actually, I think, based on a guy called Frank Vincent, who again, like you said, was a made guy. Um, I think from like the Gambino crime family or something like that in real life. Or not in real life, rather in the film. And him and Tommy in particular have got like serious beef. But yeah, you're just sort of,
Gambino, yeah.
yeah, and it's just that scene is horrific. Like I did watch it, but I was a bit like, kind of
Yeah.
like, I don't need to see all this. If kind of in like, yep, okay, this is happening. But that was at that point in the film where I was like, I forgot how violent this film is. Like I
Yeah,
actually sat
there
there
were
and said,
bits, but do you know something
I was
funny?
like, oh jeez.
I was watching it and we'd had all the loads of violent moments at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then they did this thing, I think maybe it was the wedding, and they had all the food out and there was this massive meat platter. Do you
Mm,
remember? And I remember looking
yeah.
at the meat because I've got a weird thing about ham and salami, cured meats. They weird me out. They freak me out. My daughter loves them, and if I have to make her something with that, I have to wash my hands straight away. And if she's like in the sitting room eating it, I have to make her wash her hands so she doesn't touch anything when
Yeah.
she's that kind of stuff. I just can't handle it at all. It just I don't know why, but all these crazy things happen. I'm like, oh Jesus! And then that come on, I went, "Ugh."
You're like, not the
And I
meat.
thought that like forget all the violence and the beating up. I'm like, there's a meat platter. But yeah, that really like, and I was like, how long has that been sat out? But so I just always thought I just thought it was a funny little thing that popped like of all the things because you're saying about the violence. But like,
Just,
and another really over the top, like because obviously they do this they they do this break in where they steal a load of money and they get a load of money and stuff like that. And the guy that kind of helped set it up isn't getting his money. Now,
yeah.
is that a power play? Like, why won't Jimmy give him the money, but he's
Mhm.
giving everybody else the money? And I love the way they all show up with
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 their like mid
extravagant things, and
coats
he's
and
like, "What
like,
the fuck are you doing?" Like,
go
but
away.
this guy, the way this guy goes on and on and on, and it's one of those things where this is a world that I always wonder at the root of it why people actually get into it because it's a world where you could be killed at any time, where in the most
Yeah.
violent way, and you know this, and yet that guy that set it up wouldn't stop annoying Jimmy for
Mm,
his money and shouting and getting angry and stuff like that. And
yeah.
I found him quite interesting that he would do that,
Yeah.
knowing that I'm surprised he lasted as long as he did,
Yeah. I
you
gotta,
know?
yeah.
And it's just what all these kind of examples, like the boy in the that was bringing over the drinks. He shot him in the foot and then he kills him afterwards because he's just
Yeah.
a bit annoying and he says, "Go fuck yourself." And they're like, "Oh, you're gonna let him get away with that?" And he's like, "Well, no, actually," and kill so there's all these like things
Disrespect.
that people do,
Yeah.
like the guy telling him to go fuck himself, like the guy saying about the money,
Yeah. Yeah.
knowing, which I know I'm not saying it's right because obviously it's not, knowing that the reaction can be so bad that you could be literally murdered,
Yeah,
you
you'd
know?
have to just be careful about like what you say. But it's like that moment. I have got a fun fact, and I'll come back to it. But the moment where they are coming into the bar and they've got all their fancy stuff and
Yeah.
like what the I can't.
The pink car and the coat.
Yeah, and the coat. So it's the
Yeah.
couple with the coat, and I've forgotten who it is, but and he's like apologizing, and
Yeah.
he's like saying sorry, and he keeps saying sorry, and I'm like, stop saying sorry,
Yeah. Yeah.
because
You're
I'm like,
literally
he's
like,
gonna go for you in a minute, and but it's such an intense scene. It's so
yeah.
well done, where you feel the tension, where you're just like, oh God, this is gonna,
I think that
this
was
could potentially
in that
go
one. Yeah.
horribly wrong.
No, no, exactly. You're just like, just shut up, get out,
Yeah,
just get
yeah,
out. But they keep going on and on. But I suppose that's fear as well. If I keep apologizing, maybe he won't kill me. But then he goes around and just kills them all. And even one of
yeah,
them, I
yeah.
can't remember what his name was. He kind of had like really oh, what was his name? He was in the with them a lot.
Yeah.
So I think he was the one that came in with the coat.
Okay.
Yeah, he was with his partner with the coat. And so I was surprised that he was the one found in the freezer. Remember that he killed them all
Oh,
off and
yeah,
there was
yeah.
like, yeah. So um I didn't think that he would be killed because I felt like he was more trusted, but then maybe it was the coat, like her coming in with the coat. Oh, here he is. What's his name?
Yeah, this is Frank Severo, I think you're talking about,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah, Frank Scorsese, yeah. So he came in, he was the one I felt like he was more with the group
Yeah.
than others. So I'm wondering, like, was it simply the coat? Because he wanted to wipe everyone out because he was getting really paranoid with the money and stuff,
Yeah, yeah.
but I didn't feel like he would have. been a problem. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was
Yeah, because he
shocked.
was quite a quiet character really in the film,
Yeah.
isn't he? He's
Yeah.
not like in the way, he's not kind of annoying, he's not right, But it was almost like in that scene he knew. He knew he was
Yeah.
in trouble and he
You knew
knew
would
he
fucked
pissed
up.
him off and
Yeah.
he'd fucked it,
Yeah.
essentially. And yeah, and I think that like you said that I think the fear like you that it was almost kind of like he could tell by Jimmy's face that he was done, you know?
Yeah.
He'd gone too far and there was no way to come back from it.
But then
Maybe he
Henry
would.
did it because he goes, Henry, you'll be smarter, gave
Yeah,
him a load
but
of money. Then Henry went off and
Henry's his henchman, isn't it? Like, I think this is the
mm,
thing is like Henry's so prevalent, him and Tommy in particular, they're
mm,
so, um, they're the heavies,
yeah,
essentially. You got to kind of keep the heavies on side because
yeah,
they're useful. Whereas I think, some of the others, they were in and they were doing things, but they perhaps weren't doing things to the extent that maybe Henry and Tommy were. But there was so there is a fun fact, when they were having the kind of the blowout with Billy Bats in
mm,
the barn. And there's a reference to from Billy to Tommy about like go home and get your fucking shine box.
yeah,
And it's to do with the reference to the Lucchese members, like the Lucchese family, because they were shoe shiners.
yeah,
Like they began as shoe shiners, I think, or something like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
But there's just so much in there of like, and I imagine there's quite a lot of that. Because I've looked at a little bit of like the sort of like true crime side of it with the Lucchese family and stuff like that. But I suspect there's quite a few nods throughout the film
Oh yeah.
to them because it's based on them. Um, but yeah, there's so obviously like Henry Hill plays and is Henry
Mm,
Hill. But you've got like Paulie, who is based on Paul Vario, I
yeah,
think. Um, Tommy again is still a Tommy, but he's a Thomas de Simeon. Um, Maury is Marty Krugman, and then obviously Billy Bats is again based on. But so it's like they kept all the first names and they've just sort of taken out the surnames and changed them to different names. But
well, it says here
even
that the real
Karen,
life Tommy was 6'2".
6'2".
Yeah, and obviously Danny DeVito's
Pretty tall, isn't it?
a bit smaller. What did you I thought because
Just
obviously
decided to be
to be honest with you, Danny DeVito, God,
He's definitely a little bit smaller. Yeah, sorry,
uh
Danny.
Joe Pesci. Where did I get DeVito from? Um,
It's Tommy DeVito, isn't it?
yeah, but one because obviously a lot of this is based on these guys, but I
Yeah,
think one big relationship that takes up a lot of space in this film is Henry and his wife, and
yeah,
Henry and his girlfriends, and Henry.
yeah,
Like he's I
yeah.
mean
He's got a few, isn't he?
his relationship, I mean, with Karen is
Yeah,
is just I find it quite stressful watching Henry because as the film progresses and we
yeah,
see him kind of falling because he's doing so much drugs and everything's going so wrong, and then his relationship with Karen, and then he's got his girlfriend that I'm not being funny. He set her up in a really nice apartment, and I
yeah,
love how she's not performing right at work, so they go and beat up her boss, going, she's going to perform fine and you're going to say nothing about it. Like it was just ludicrous. But how
yeah,
they have these separate things, but the guys are still like, you can have your girlfriends and stuff, but you still got to go back to your wife. So it's like, it's almost like, we're not the bad guys. We're telling him like, you still got to go back to your
yeah.
wife while
Like
you're banging all
Darren's
these other
family.
women. Like,
Yeah,
and but she was a constant, but also watching her descend into madness. Like I think for
yeah,
me, when she went to the prison, he got put in jail and she was
mm,
bringing him stuff and she was just throwing it on the table at him and stuff like that because she
yeah, yeah,
just, she'd had so much from him. Do you know
yeah,
what I mean? That trying to take all this, but she was one, and I think what really showed how she supported him through all the bullshit and stuff like that is when he got out of they got arrested and she put all the drugs down the toilet. And when
Yeah.
he came back, that whole scene, I just
Oh,
was like, mate, like when he broke down and started crying because it was like $60,000 worth of stuff and she
yeah.
was hugging him, I thought, after everything he's done to you, which he has, like he's not been the best partner, that she just in that moment cuddled him and held him while he basically had what looked like a bit of a nervous breakdown. But he looked
Yeah.
so manic, that whole thing where he was panicked, the panic in him and the fear in him, and what am I going to do? It was
Well, yeah,
just
he's dead
all too
essentially, isn't
much.
he? He's lost
Yeah.
60,
I think
you
I
know,
think the life of him
60
in that
grand.
moment for me was, I think that's one of the best scenes for me because it's when it just became all too much,
Yeah.
you know, and
Yeah.
it kind of shows how people can only take so much and eventually they will hit rock bottom. And I think as well with, because obviously Tommy gets offered to be a made man and you kind of see when they pull up in the parking to park that, you know, the way they do it, you know that this isn't going to end well, you know. And I liked how when he walked in and he was like shit, he knew because
Yeah.
in the back of the head, and then obviously
Yeah.
Jimmy starts falling apart with that. um and it's just how their lives are all just like falling and falling apart. But I think that moment for me was, you know, it was very real to life of how whatever is going on in your life that eventually you
I
will
think
crack.
I do think that's what makes it such a great film, though,
Yeah, it's a
because
great fucking film.
it really is. And I know
Yeah,
that I feel kind of, a lot of people have kind of said it was like the height of
I never thought it
Scorsese,
was. I
which I
never.
can, yeah, I
Yeah,
was always a bit like, that's a bit
that's all
harsh.
right.
But
Yeah,
actually, when you watch it, you're like,
yeah,
it's a great film because you do find yourself caring for these people.
yeah,
They're not just all bad and violent and, you do get to see other sides of them. You get to see the family sides of them. You get to see them, like you're saying, having those moments where they're like,
mm,
they're up here with,
yeah,
it's too much. Like the nervous system has to just like,
yeah,
like die a little bit, and release. And they have their little moments where they have a little cry and, because they're living in a world that they've set up for themselves that
yeah,
is incredibly stressful. Like all of it is, watching it is stressful, let
yeah.
alone
Oh God, yeah,
being in it. Just constantly being worried at any point that maybe you're going to get offed. And I really like it when you know they're doing the narration of um Henry going to meet Jimmy in the restaurant, and he's saying,
mm,
you don't know when your end's coming,
yeah,
like you're met with a smile or whatever it is, that actually you won't see it coming at all, and so you have to be really
yeah.
quite kind of on it.
But then, yeah, look how they killed Tommy. Look how they
Yeah.
killed, um, what was Samuel Jackson's Slacks or something?
Was it Stacks? Yeah.
Stacks. How they killed that guy that was asking for his money, you know, in the back of the car with I think that was a corkscrew or
Yeah, yeah.
something.
Oh, that
Um,
was, yeah.
but yeah, no, they, you know, it's all with your back to them, you know,
Yeah.
which you know is a bit of a
Yeah.
coward's way out. If you're going to do it, do it. Um,
It's quick,
but
isn't it? You don't see
yeah,
it doing
it's
it.
quick, and I suppose that's one thing. I'm not saying that you know it's a God thing, but at least it's done and dusted. Like they don't make them suffer. Like, do you know what I mean? Which they do for other people. Like if I was going to be,
Yeah.
you know, if I was going to be killed, you'd be like, just, and that was the only thing that was going to, you know, there's no getting out of this. You want it to be
Good
quick and
point,
pay,
actually, isn't
you
it?
know,
Yeah.
you don't want to be like, you know, because you hear of obviously some serial killers and stuff like that. They make it last, you know, whereas, you know, if you're,
Yeah.
I mean, don't do it. But like, is that like
If
a,
you're going to.
like,
I was,
but the corkscrew guy didn't get the quick. The other guys did, but the
yeah.
corkscrew guy, that would have been,
Oh,
you know what I mean? That would have been a bit slower, but shoot right back in the head. I presume, you know, that, yeah, that's you done and dusted.
yeah.
But yeah, so I do think that it, like the relationships between them all is like they're really interesting because there's behavior that we just wouldn't tolerate, you know?
Mm,
Like to stop talking to a friend, they don't actually have to do You know, if you started treating me with disrespect all the time, then I just wouldn't bother with you. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Whereas
yeah, yeah.
they tolerate a lot. I suppose it's that, like you said, it's the culture, it's the life that they're in.
Yeah. Well,
And
because they know for the most of them they can't just leave it, you know.
no.
You just leave it, you're gonna get shot in the back of the
Well,
head, you know.
well, look at coming out of that then. Like the reason all this probably came about was because of what Henry Hill did. He knew that if he went, because at the end they were going to kill him.
Yeah.
And
Well, they tried to kill Karen, don't they? Because
yeah, that was
he sort
that
of
was an
Karen,
interesting one. I mean, you could
she
see that a mile off when he's like, just
just ran
down there,
there,
because you'd
just
walk her down. You'd walk her down. Oh, I've got
yeah,
something for you. And if it was halfway down the street, you'd walk down. You wouldn't be like, go down there. And in that dark door where there's men standing, like,
two men waiting for you. And she's like,
exactly,
oh, just
exactly.
remember.
There's fancy clothes there. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
but so yeah. I'm surprised she lasted as long as she did walking down there. I'd have been off a lot sooner. But yeah, I think like where the way Henry did that, but apparently he wasn't quite into the witness protection that he should have been. Like,
Right.
you know, he became a bit of a pain in the ass apparently for them, and that's why he wasn't in it forever. You know what I mean? And
I think he did go on to like recommit some
oh
crime,
yeah,
didn't
yeah,
he?
yeah. I think he ended up
Afterwards.
in yeah.
They ended up
Um,
divorcing and think in the end.
but
So
you know, you know, we've spoken about this about people, you know, kind of sorting themselves out. But, you know, if you've lived a life from like 14 and that kind of life, because it is like a bit of a cult at the same time.
yeah, oh,
You know what I mean?
100%, yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're in your 50s and the money's not where it used to be. And, you know, the life, because look at the life they had. Get quick entry into all the clubs. They get the best seats. They get the
Yeah,
champagne. They get the girls. Everybody's idolizing them.
that's
You know, it's like a
exactly.
celebrity when you think about it. That's how they live. And then all of a sudden to be told, nope, it's done. Off you go. Like it must be a
Yeah.
really, you know, that's a drug in itself, you know, that
Yeah,
kind
of
of
course it is. That
life.
kind of life, that status, the
Mm,
the the freebies you're getting, the amount of money that you're having, that there's no, and it's action without consequence because
yeah.
they're just getting away
And
with
they're paying
doing.
off the police,
Yeah, yeah, like they
you
they're
know?
they become untouchable, don't they?
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
a degree. Well, they that's not true. They know that they aren't because they're aware that the FBI at some point are gonna
But they
try
get
and
away
hunt
with more
them.
than most. And I think that's the thing. Like if you
Yeah.
committed the crimes they committed, you'd be more than likely locked up and you'd be, you know, they were not going to be like, oh, scared of Amalie, better not touch her. Like, do you know what I mean? They'd be like, right, go on. Well, you never know. Maybe you are a secret mafioso and we don't
So
know
I
about it.
think I could be in the mafia, like, just not if I could do like Debbie Mazer's job where I just sort of like count
Oh,
money
no.
and
What?
stack
She was bloody
cocaine.
coked off her head, that one.
Yeah,
She
but
was
I wouldn't
mental.
take the cocaine. Well, actually, I
You
don't
probably, well, look at you. Oh, I've never been into the whole drug thing. So, but you never,
know.
people start at all ages. What can I say? But, yeah, no, I thought that her role was, I thought she was the worst one. Not her being worst. It was just her life.
Just
Like,
a
'cause
life in a room, just
yeah,
like
in a room doing
cooking
all
up
this stuff with a guy
cocaine.
who was only there using her. You like, do you know what I mean? And like, because you see that look
Really?
earlier on when he's with his girlfriend and he's looking at her as well, and she's like, "Yeah, I could be some of that."
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, the whole thing at the end of the day is just a tragic story. Yes, you may have had some good
yeah.
frickin' times, but was it worth it? You know, unless you were one of because he
I
ended
think he
up,
would say that it probably was, right? I think he would
yeah,
probably even now look back on his life and go, that
but
was
it
a
was probably
that was
only
a
worth it if you like for Tommy, was it worth it? Like, do you know what I mean?
yeah,
But
exactly.
you know,
Someone's actually died.
for like because Jimmy, Robert De Niro's character,
Yeah,
um, he died in prison in 1996. So,
yeah.
but then you see them when they're in prison. Did you see the way they were like making their dinners and like they had a completely different lifestyle in prison? They're like at bloody Butlins, so they were just
Even in prison, they go. But can you imagine being like someone that was high up in the mafia going into prison, and they're going to be inmates and they'll be like, "Fuck, he's mafia." He's
yeah,
like
yeah.
you gotta like, "Oh, morning, Mr.
But
Conway."
I think certain
Like,
organizations, I'm not going to mention
get the
them, but
door for
there's
you.
a certain organization, uh, this side of the pond, like that has that kind of luxury as well. That not so much now, maybe, but back in the day.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think it's fear though, isn't it? Because they don't just get you, they get your family. So like, I'm not being funny. If I worked in a prison and they were like, if you turn your head and let us make ourselves some nice pasta, then we won't
Yeah.
go fuck up your family. I'd be like, make yourself some pasta, guys, and do an extra portion for me.
Well, see, you don't know what connections they've got on the
No.
outside. And like
Yeah.
you were saying earlier, one little thing they get so hyped up about.
Yeah.
Like if you were like a prison guard or like one of the
Yeah.
catering staff in the prison and you had like a situation with like like Jimmy Conway, for example,
Yeah.
and you've disrespected him, like I'd be going home being like, God, I hope my family are okay. Like I'd be ringing home to check that my family were okay.
Exactly. It's just,
You're right, lock
yeah.
all the doors, like don't let anyone in that you don't know. Like, just
Yeah.
look out for weird stuff. But I like the end when sort of like the word that gets used right at the end for like, the life that he sort of
Yeah.
I can say returns to, but ends up in where he sort of, he becomes a schnook, which is sort of like the kind of sort of like a nobody basically,
Yeah.
right? Like a foolish, unimportant person that I think it's a Yiddish term as far as I'm aware,
Just
schnook, isn't
becomes
it?
an everyday Joe like the rest of
Yeah.
us, really, doesn't
Hey,
he? But yeah,
poor
he
thing.
uh
Poor thing.
I know. That's where we've gone
Yeah.
wrong, Amalie. We should have joined the
Yeah.
UK mafia, if there is such a thing. I
Well,
doubt it.
clearly.
Um, but yeah, it says here he was kicked out in '87 due to repeated involvement in narcotic trafficking and his inability to stop violating program rules, which I would
Mm,
believe. Like, I'm not being funny. They
yeah.
spend their whole life doing what they want, and then all of a sudden they have to like not be a wise guy,
But this
a
is what
good
I'm
fella.
saying. Like,
Yeah,
all of that, this is what I'm saying about the kind of like
they're
dopamine
institutionalized
stuff.
at that point.
But there must be a level of like adrenaline that,
Yeah.
well, I mean, not must be, there is the level of adrenaline that you get from committing these kind of crimes. And if you think for Henry as well, that's all mixed up in his cocaine taking.
Mm,
So which again, like for the brain, being, so you've got this enmeshment of like literal like chemical
mm,
high mixed with dopamine high and crime,
yeah.
like to just become an average Joe and live
Oh,
like it's just how do you'd have to be so self-aware, like he would have
yeah.
needed, my God, I would love to have had him as like like work with him as a client or something. That'd be amazing. But you just, yeah, incredible. I mean, how does a guy return to that life?
Well, it shows that they
It
can,
doesn't, yeah.
and he had kids, so then that wasn't even enough of a, him and his wife did
No,
eventually
no.
break up.
He did, yeah, they did,
They got a divorce and he had two children who apparently kind of keep, you know,
a
oh, he
little
got
bit.
three kids apparently. They kind of keep their heads down, which I don't blame them. Like I don't
Yeah.
think I mean, I don't know, I haven't looked it up, but I don't think the mafia is such a thing anymore. Um
I imagine there's still, elements
People
of it going
tinkering
on. Maybe
around.
less so in America. I don't know what it's like in like Sicily and places like that, but um
Oh, apparently, yes, it does still exist today, though it
I imagine
operates
it
much different.
does.
Rather than flamboyant street violence and public racketeering, they're
Stealing.
more modern, organized crime syndicates and
Yeah.
yeah, white collar fraud and deeply entrenched corruption. So the
Beautiful.
politicians,
Yeah, yeah, probably.
they're
Yeah.
called politicians, dear,
Yeah.
not mafia.
It's
The,
crazy.
the mafia probably has more rules and honor than the politicians do.
That's it. Like you got to wonder, haven't you? Like how much, these big crime families across the world, like what are they, where are they putting their money? And people like politicians and presidents and things like that,
Yeah,
are they,
yeah,
in these kind of big crime families, and
yeah,
it's fascinating stuff.
yeah.
But
But
yeah,
yeah,
I
no,
think the
I
Lucchese family, I imagine it's still going strong to a degree, but their era definitely was between the 50s to the 80s.
oh yeah, it was like massive, massive back then.
Yeah.
Um, One I think would be a good thing for us to do. It's Gangs of New York.
Yeah, well, yeah, there's
I
plenty
love
of
that
like
film. That's meant to
mafia
be.
cops
Maybe we
in
can
New
look at some more
York.
kind of films like that as well, like, those
Yeah,
types of things. Because I did, like, I remember watching good. I wasn't really into the whole Godfather, Goodfellas. I did like Donnie Brasco. Couldn't get through Casino because it was just too violent for me. And
mhm.
but I really, I think sometimes it's like I've said this before, when you can watch films and look at them different ways, or just not be in the mood. This is quite a heavy film.
Yeah, yeah,
It's not one you put on just to wash over your head. You have to actually watch it and appreciate it. And I think
yeah,
this time I really did. Um, and it is just it's a masterpiece in directing. It's a master, like, it's an acting class. Like, if you wanted to be an actor, or you wanted to be a director or something, or cinematographer, like, you
yeah.
need to watch films like this to see how it's done, because, like,
100%.
oh God, they're just like, especially, I thought Ray Liotta was exceptional in it. I just thought he was so perfect casting,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
Um, and of course, Robert De Niro's Robert De Niro. He's just a legend.
I think so.
And Joe Pesci, I just think he's brilliant. I just think
Joe Pesci's great in
he's so
everything, though,
good.
isn't he? Like,
He's just adorable. Like, you see him in stuff like this, but then you see him in, like, My Cousin Vinny and Home Alone and stuff, and you're like, how
yeah,
is that the
yeah.
same guy? But do you know the funny thing is when you see him in Home Alone and My Cousin Vinny, he's still that kind of, like,
He's still
hey, guy about
there.
it, but he does it in a more less stabby kind of way.
Well, he plays, crime mobster very well, doesn't he? Or like
Oh God,
any kind of like, crime based, whether it is breaking into, little boys' homes or like that sounds a bit weird, but
that sounds a
I
bit
mean
weird.
Home Alone is a reference to Home Alone. Or I'm trying to think of. I mean, he's done loads, so much, but he does generally usually play some sort of,
And he
bad
doesn't.
egg,
He does. He hasn't really done a lot since the 90s, and then he came back
Yeah,
and
I think he had a
did
bit of a break for a bit,
The
didn't he?
Irishman, which I
Yeah.
really enjoyed. I know a lot of people didn't, but that was another one you had to kind of be in the form for. And maybe it's probably based on something real. I can't remember, but we could look at that one. But
Yeah.
yeah, he's got a way about him. I think to me, him and Robert De Niro, I think they're terrifying people in general, and they're probably lovely. This is just
Oh,
because of the films I see them in. Like, I
yeah,
remember watching Cape Fear, and I couldn't look at Robert De Niro for a while after that, because it
yeah.
was just he's just amazing. He's so good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'd be a good thing to look into. And I think yeah, but good old Henry Hill did die at 69 on June
Did.
12th. Oh, just the other day, at 2002.
Yeah.
Um
He wasn't that old at all, really. 69. I mean, 69 is nothing, is it?
oh, Karen Hill's still alive. She's
She
80.
is. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So good.
so but yeah, good film, and
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
Me too. It's, if you haven't seen it, which if you haven't, like, where have you been? But in case you haven't, or in case you're kind of like, I'm not really into gangster films, they're not really my kind of thing. Like, just give it a watch, even just
Yeah.
for the cinematography, or however you want to say it. Just to I do just think it is so well
Yeah.
made, so
Made,
well
yeah.
written. And Henry Hill did have a lot of influence. He did sort of
Yeah.
help to not co-produce it, but he consulted on the
Yeah,
movie
he got paid for,
itself.
and
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Um
Um, and it's just incredible. It's an incredible film. Yeah.
yeah. Cool.
Um, yeah,
Um,
there you go.
and the next one we're going to do is
This is the
Slender Man, and I
Slender
think we've got
Man.
Annabelle coming out
Yeah.
this Wednesday. But yeah, anyway, if you want to send us any suggestions or opinions or anything, you can email us at theroomwentdark@gmail.com, or go over to the socials at The Room Went Dark, which is on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, and we will chat to you soon. Bada bing.
Bam boom. Hey.
Hey. Bye.
Okay.
Bada bing.